Andrea Immer Robinson, and I'm a master sommelier. Exploring wine and food is my passion, and it's my life's work. As a wine and food book author, TV host, trained chef, and educator, it's my privilege to share with you the fun, people, and places, and the delicious pairings that make our lives and our planet a better place. Welcome to Quench from my home in wine country. Well, welcome everybody to Quench, and happy week of July 4th, Independence Day. If you're on the road headed somewhere for a festive gathering, then may you get there safely, and hopefully you packed your patience. But this is my episode. I called it Uncle Sam and Lady Liberty Walk Into a Bar because the fun thing about cocktails and Independence Day is that the cocktail's an American invention. We'll get into more of that in a second. But first of all, I just want to say thank you for joining me. If you are on Instagram and you want to pop over to the YouTube link, that might be the place where you can see most of the graphics. You'll also see that I'm asking you to subscribe. I'm really terrible about remembering to do that. I watch all these YouTube videos I learn a lot from, and they're always doing a good job of saying subscribe to my channel. It does really help me to be able to do these. I'll be able to do a lot more shows, master classes, probably even courses without sponsors. I'll always be able to do the content that we want to do if you're able to subscribe. So that's a really, really cool thing. Last episode was so incredibly cool. We were live at Brown Downtown. We had an in-person expert, tiny little in-person taste-along audience. Now this time around, we don't have an audience, but I'm going to flip the camera around so you can see that we have Summer. So we've invited Summer. That's our audience and the summer vibes. And you know, you've got the same thing. That's hopefully the audience that you're working with right now. But it was a great show with my fellow master sommelier, Christopher Gaither. We talked about skin contact wines. It was actually the day before Juneteenth. And you know, the whole idea of don't judge a book by its cover. We don't judge a wine by its color or anything else. They can be all different kinds of cool colors. But we talked about skin contact, orange wines and rosé wines, how they're made, different styles that we got to taste. It was super fun. And it was great having all those expert tasters in the audience because they were able to taste along with us, and just it gives a lot of energy and a great vibe. So please subscribe to the channel because we will be doing more of those where you can be an in-person audience member with, you know, as far as I know, no cost. So it would be great to have you, and if you're a subscriber to the channel, I'll be able to make sure you know about that option. So super excited about that, but more importantly, I'm excited to introduce my guest, fellow sommelier Megan Vergara, who is also a vintner, and we're going to be talking about that in a second. But first of all, just Megan, we're both kind of partners in crime in this world of everything from trying to get more and more conversation happening about wine, but also about sustainability. So just talk a little bit about your work.
Definitely. So I am a sommelier and a vintner as well, which has been a dream come true, and I'm very excited to be using my sparkling wine today in one of our cocktails. But in the process of deciding I'm going to move back to Napa Valley and produce wine, it occurred to me that I wanted to do it with a lot of intention and a lot of purpose. And to me, that meant producing everything at the most sustainable level possible. So we'll talk a lot about what that means. I also consult for Napa Greens. So all of my wines are Napa Greens certified, and I've learned a lot about sustainability along the journey. A beautiful path that I recommend everybody takes whatever step they can on.
And which is a cool thing about the wine industry, and I just got back from Aspen, which is where I discovered the gin we're going to be using for the first cocktail that we make. We've both tasted it.
We love it. We are really excited about it.
But there were a couple of sessions that I attended there that really drove home and reminded me on the production side, on the media side, and on the hospitality side, pretty much every side of the wine industry. There's a door open for anyone.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have a Davis degree to be a vintner. You don't have to have any kind of formal training. You can. My sommelier training was all on the job and books, and I don't know many other people for whom that's not true. And how about your sommelier training? I mean, how did you learn?
Yes, so I had actually just moved to Manhattan after going to Ohio State, and
The Ohio State.
thank you. I'm actually going back to Ohio in a few days. I really appreciate
Way
that,
to go,
everybody.
Ohio! Yay!
I'm going to buy a T-shirt that says "the" just to bug everybody.
I like it.
So I moved to Manhattan, and I got a great job working in the restaurant world, and it was wonderful. They needed somebody to run the wine program, so they sent me
Where?
to school, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Oh my gosh, what a
incredible
program.
An incredible company,
Yeah.
really. So I became a sommelier there, and I went to the Sommelier Society of America. And is that where you got your award from?
I did.
I
yes.
saw that.
Yeah.
So that's my alma mater in
Yeah.
the Somm journey.
Yeah.
But then I fell in love with wine and thought it was incredible. But as I was progressing in my Somm journey, and I still am a Somm and love it, I realized that I just was very eager. I loved hearing all these great legendary stories,
Right.
many of which you are sharing so beautifully. But I was like, I want to tell my own story as well.
Right.
So I decided to go to the other side and become a vintner as well.
Right.
Which is
And
wonderful.
yeah.
Hence the lettering, by the way. It's
Yeah.
representative of a
M is for Megan.
yeah, or of an illuminated text where it's the beginning of a story.
That is
So,
fantastic.
yeah.
So I have a quick question because I think we promised people that we would go back on Instagram, and I'm not sure,
Yes.
did we do that?
We did not.
Okay.
So I'll jump over
So-
and put us on Instagram
So
live.
just in case people want to plug in, we're going to do that for a second. But while you do that,
Yes.
I'm going to talk a little bit about our theme, which we've gone over and we're very excited about. It's Cocktails for Independence Day. For sure, everybody wants to be doing some swanky sipping, but we're also really focused on cocktails because it's an American invention. I know I mentioned that before. For millennia, wine and other distilled beverages, once distillation got started, have been mixed with other things. But the cocktail as a particular definition got started in America in the 1800s. We'll talk about that in a second. We're just jumping back onto Instagram Live. If you are on Instagram Live, you're not going to see the graphics that we have to show and have the whole experience, but we love having you with us. However, if you want to jump over to YouTube, we do have quite a few people watching on YouTube, and I'm very excited to make sure that you get a chance to join us there, because that's where you can subscribe to the channel and hopefully make it possible for me to do more of these programs. Okay, but we're going to talk about, therefore, our cocktail focus today is American spirits, and we're also going to teach you some of the main techniques for mixing cocktails, because it's something that in the sommelier world not everybody focuses on, but a lot of us do, and it's also, they're easy. And DIY is fun, right? It's so much easier to learn to make cocktails than it is to learn to cook, I think.
I agree with that. I very much agree.
And it's like, and you can experiment. It's a lot harder to kind of go wrong because you're not having to work with heat and trying to get things right, or is it done? I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want to poison anybody or something like that. So cocktails, because of that, it's super fun. We're also going to run down a lot of the gear that you use, because once you acquire it, it's not that expensive to start with. A lot of our favorite mixologists have gear kits. I know Tony Abou-Ghanem does. You probably know.
That's cool, like a chef with their knives.
Yeah, they've got all the stuff that it's in, and they are sort of like chefs with knives.
Yeah.
They're picky about how the gear works, and they want it to be really, really great. So we'll take you through that. But first, let's talk about what is a cocktail. And so we've got a definition. The first time a cocktail was mentioned in print was in 1806 in a newspaper, and the definition was a stimulating liquor composed of spirits of any kind, sugar, water. It's important, right? Because you're really wanting to balance things, and those sugar and spirits can be strong. And then bitters, which is an interesting one.
Oh, that's always a staple.
Yes, yes. But let's talk about that for a second, because what do we really mean by bitters? I think more and more the cocktail balancing act is sometimes it's bitters, sometimes it's acid. And that's where the wine is going to come in for sure, because you're basically doing something that gives your palate kind of a cut to it. So that is, I think that was a great starting point. But I like the Jerry Thomas definition, and he wrote a book called How to Mix Drinks in the mid-1800s. I think it came out right around the end of the Civil War. And his definition was, and this is something that I was taught by Dale DeGroff, one of sour, That's where the bitters thing comes
Okay.
in, right? Instead of bitters, it's an acid. 2 of sweet, so something sweet to balance the sour,
Sweet. Okay.
and maybe also to balance the spirit if it's intense. 3 of strong, that's the spirit, right? So the strong meaning high proof. We'll talk about that in a second. And then 4 of weak,
Oh.
and that might be a juice.
Okay.
It might be the water that gets mixed in when you shake it or
Sure.
stir it, or it might be some of the dilution of something coming from a wine, right?
Interesting.
So with that in mind, let's talk about your wine. Talk about, what's in it, how it's made. We got a beautiful graphic of the
Yes.
label up there that you can see.
Well, thank you for displaying that. The label was such a big part of
Well,
the journey for me. I wanted something beautiful.
Right?
so.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
So talk. Well, let's open it. Let's talk about it.
Sounds great.
And but what's in it, and how do you make it, and all that stuff.
Sure. So first and foremost, as we mentioned, sustainability is really important to me. So you'll notice there's no foil, and this is something kind of new and exciting going on in the sparkling wine
Yeah,
world,
agreed.
where you're seeing people move away from foil, and I'm very, very glad I did it. But interestingly enough, and we can touch on it later, it's a lot of manual labor. These are all done by hand.
You
so
poor girl.
for all our winemaking
You're
friends
like,
out there,
really? This is crazy.
yeah. I actually love not having the foil, and I feel like this was a beautiful element, and my designer loved it. But yeah,
Yeah.
So, but it's neat. It just comes right off, just like so.
Well,
very, very easy.
I like your style. I don't know if you said this explicitly because I was looking to see it. I moved the framing over a little bit so that we could see it better.
Nice.
Is that any less trash we can make is a good idea,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And that's really a bigger and bigger thing in the world of wine is just if you don't need a capsule or a foil and you're just going to throw it in the trash, why spend the money on it?
Absolutely.
All of that stuff. So
And it's one of the only things that you actually really don't use. Like with the glass, even I actually get candles made all the time.
right,
I'll bring you one. They're
yeah,
so
that
cool.
reinvent thing that does it. That's a
Yes,
really
and
yours.
it's
Your
a
label's
local gal,
perfect for
so
that.
she does all the shops in here in
Oh,
Napa
boy,
Valley. And she's
okay.
incredible. So
That's awesome.
Look for M candles, but yeah, there's
So
and
even
even the
though we're-
corks we can do so much
Right.
with. And
Well,
yeah.
and you can also recycle them. There's like cork
There is.
depositories that you can send it to.
Yeah, and there's the Teachers Resource Center here in Napa Valley that will come collect corks, and then they use it to give teachers great supplies that they need for the school year. So it's just
which
endlessly
is fantastic.
cool.
And
Yeah.
I know for those of you who are in Manhattan, the Cork Collective is collecting corks from all over town in the restaurants there.
Nice.
And they are bringing them back for
That's incredible.
industrial recycling. So for things like you see them, everything from flooring to paneling to things like buoys, right, where you need
And
flotation.
They use them for the materials that go on spaceships.
Absolutely. So look for that because that Cork Collective thing I think is going to be expanding to Napa and it's going to be expanding around and
Right.
and if you're in a restaurant, say, hey, are you guys part of the Cork Collective? If it's a wine focused restaurant, they should be.
I love it. So you wanna try a little
let's
taste
taste a little
before we-
splash
okay.
before we make our drink, and then just because. And did you mention the grapes that are in it?
Not yet. So I actually, truly, as we're talking about our partnership and our great friendship with France. It's okay. Thank you. I of course learned being a somm studied how much I loved true champagne, but this is an American sparkling wine, so I set out to make it in the French style, but recognizing that these are wonderful American grapes with certain characters, California character. But I chose Anderson Valley. It's actually called the Elke Family Vineyard. and
Oh,
it's
I've heard
up
of that one.
they're
It's quite
fabulous.
famous.
Yeah. They sell the Roederer for their L'Hermitage, which is quite the thing, and they sell to Radio Coteau and all sorts of incredible
Fantastic.
producers. So I was
Just
thrilled
fixing
when
the
they said
framing
yes. So it's a true Blanc de Blanc in the style that is 100% Chardonnay, and we did make it in the true Champagne or the method traditional, where it everything was re-fermented in bottle and it went through tirage, and it took years. So the huge labor of patience on my part.
You're like, whoa, this is more than I bargained for. I'm going to have you scoot this way a little bit
Sure.
because in the process of like getting all of our gear in place,
graphics.
we somewhat reframed ourselves. Okay, that looks way better.
Live
Okay.
show. Love
yes,
it.
exactly. Live show with no producer. It's us.
It's us.
It's
and
us.
we're going to add cocktails here in a minute. so
Exactly,
stay
which is going to
tuned.
get super exciting. Okay. Oh, James, thank you for the Old
Yes,
Mr.
jump on
Boston
YouTube and
book.
comment.
The Old Mr. Boston book. My parents had that when I was little. I think they got it
Nice.
for a wedding gift, and I remember being enamored by the ones with the cool names, like the pink squirrel and the grasshopper. So So even though I didn't drink anything, at like age 7, 8, and 9, I was making my mom on Sunday afternoons cocktails out of the old Mr. Boston book. So
Nice.
that brings up a very nice memory. And Andrew, great to hear from you. Empress Gin, Canadian, not American. All right. Well, we love our
it.
Canadian
Yes,
friends.
we do.
But today we're focusing on American. So, but specifically, you know, the other reason to make this French 75 cocktail, which is what we're going to do, so we can use the sparkling, and we can use an American gin, which we'll tell you about in a second, is that we wouldn't have an Independence Day most likely without the French.
Yes.
Our friendship with them goes all the way back to Revolutionary times. I looked it up. They think they went into debt to the tune of about $90 billion in current dollars, which doesn't sound like a lot in the modern world, but there were only about 2.5 million Americans living in the colonies at the time. And so that's a lot of money. And they also sent troops and weapons and people and were a big part of it. So yay for the French. Thank you very much for your longtime friendship. And but we're making a French 75 with all American stuff. So let's talk about our gin. And I'm going to move that over. I tell you, it's
It
a good.
is so delicious.
It is a
Highly
good thing.
recommend checking it out.
Okay, so I got. Doggone it! We had the framing so
Did I
beautiful.
move? That could have been
I
me.
don't know.
Sorry.
This is crazy.
I'm such an Instagram girl. I feel like I'm watching
I
my
know.
Instagram.
We need a camera dude to move things around,
Yes.
or
anyone wants
dudette.
to volunteer and come drink with us next time?
Yes,
Throw your
we could
hand up.
use a producer. Okay, so but we have Devil's Grin Gin, and I talked about going to Aspen, the Food and Wine Magazine Classic, which is always a super cool event.
That looks so fun.
It was so fun, and you also get there. I got to discover quite a few new things, and one of the things that I discovered was this Devil's Grin Gin, and it happened to be the case. Whoops! Well, you guys can see it, but it happened to be the case that I was going to Texas 2 days later. So it was exciting to me. I learned about wine in Texas and went to college there, and also a lot of my childhood. So very, very strong tie here. But this is made by Trinity River Distillers in Fort Worth, Texas, and a lot of Texas botanicals in it. What were we talking about
the
before?
bean, the
Mesquite.
Texas mesquite bean.
Texas mesquite bean. So the mesquite tree, I remember this really well because when you had Texas barbecue, you would always prepare it over mesquite chips or mesquite charcoal.
Oh, wow.
That's the type. That's a local, really scrubby tree that grows where almost nothing else will. And but they would the native populations would grind it into a flour. Some people now, forager types of purveyors, make a coffee substitute out of it, which is super cool. Hey everybody on Instagram, thank you for staying with us. I hope you're enjoying this. We are on YouTube if you want to see these graphics. I'm trying to hold the bottle up, but we have we have all the recipes, etc. The links in the bio. So Devil's Grin, we both have tasted it since it arrived. We're really grateful that they sent us this gin. Actually, kind of a lot of it. So we're going to be having lots of gin parties this summer.
So as far as we can tell, too, not only is it a great gin, but they seem like an incredible team.
Yeah.
So the people sometimes behind things really, I think, are very important.
I heard this from a private equity person who I really respect a lot once. They said the no a-holes policy. That's the number one thing, is because if everyone is just like upstanding, everyone's going to work together and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. All right, so let's jump to our recipe. So what we're doing for our French 75 is we are doing 1.5 ounces of gin. So I'm going to go ahead and let me grab the jigger there.
You got it.
This is my stirrer, and I'm going to shake it. So I'm going to get my Boston shaker,
Okay.
and then we'll grab that jigger over there, and we're going to do this in a flute. A wine glass or a martini glass would be good, but I decided to do it as a flute. And then I got this, and then I just need the jigger right here.
Perfect.
And so we're gonna do 1 ounce. And why am I doing 1 ounce? You could do a little bit more than that, but we're kind of lightening this up for summertime. So 1 ounce of the gin, and
It smells so
it does.
good. I wish everybody could smell.
Honestly, it sort of smells like a fragrance like a nice
here.
men's fragrance. I'm going to get us to the next screen, so that's not in our way. But it does smell like, I would say both men and women could wear it. But probably I'd be more floral, and this is a little bit more spicy. So to me, I think of that as more of a male fragrance. But anyway, so we've got. And I've got my subscribe button there too to remind everybody, because I keep forgetting. Okay, so we're gonna do an ounce of the gin, and let me go back to my recipe though, because I don't remember it. Okay, and then simple syrup, fresh lemon, and the sparkling. Okay, cool. So, an ounce and a half. All right, good thing you mentioned that. All right, so we'll put another little splash in there, and then
leave it to me to be like another little
bit of the gin, please. And then what we're gonna do is I'm actually gonna juice the lemon. Because one of the things that I learned in that my lucky career of being able to learn from great mixologists is you just have to use fresh. You've got to use fresh, and there's no reason not to. It's not hard.
It makes such a difference.
Yep, I bought this at a big box store, and it was probably $1.99. It is. Where's our little cutting board? There it is. If you can grab that, because I think I'll be okay, but you never know. And so this is a really easy, super simple thing to do, to just ream your own lemon juice. I know these look like Jurassic lemons, and they kind of are. We actually have this bush in the yard here that just never seems to stop yielding lemons, which is so great. Simple syrup. Let's talk about that for a second. I have a purchased one because a friend of mine gave it to me. However, generally speaking, one less thing to buy in a package. I would make it myself. It's just equal parts sugar and water. Melt it on the stove or in the microwave until the sugar is no longer crystallized, and then you cool it, and you've got simple syrup. That's why it's called simple syrup, because it's really simple. And I'm gonna grab this little bucket here, and so I have a place to throw stuff.
There you go.
And then we need a 3/4 ounces of that, so I'm gonna just strain that through. Fresh lemon juice. And that's a little more than 3/4, but I don't think we mind, because I really love, thank you.
You're welcome.
I really love things to be a little bit on the tart side.
Agreed.
And then a little bit of the simple syrup. We called that 3/4 of an ounce. I'll go ahead and amp it a little bit, but we've got the sparkling, so I don't want to overtake that. And then what we're doing with this part of the cocktail is we're gonna shake it. Why? First of all, the biggest reason, it smells so great, right? The biggest reason to shake is, or almost any of the cocktail production techniques, is you're adding water because you are diluting and balancing. And I looked it up today. Typically, when you shake to about a slow 10 count, you're amping to close to 25% of the cocktail's volume. So you want that, because you don't want that intensity of the taste profile. You want the balance, right? It's just like any sauce. You might not be making a sour sauce, but you're still going to have some acid somewhere in there. I learned that in cooking school. One little drop of red wine vinegar makes every sauce that's supposed to be savory perfect. So this is the type of shaker that I like to use. Some people like to use the bullet shaker with the integrated lid, but I'm just used to this one. And the other reason that we shake is to add air. So we don't want to do that with all of the cocktails, but if you add air, then you've got those bubbles breaking at the surface. Now, of course, with the sparkling wine, we amp that effect, but we'll do a slow 10 count. I should have thought about the sundress and the upper arms, but oh well. Darn it. Okay, and then I usually have to break the seal. You have to kind of bump it on the side of the table or the bar.
Perfect. Look at that.
And then we've got our strainer right here, and we've got our flutes. So we're just going to pour this base in.
Oh, look at that. Gorgeous color.
And then
Incredible.
we will top it up with our chilled.
Tell me when to stop.
Important chilled. I think just go to the top.
All right.
I think to me, I'm gonna like that taste profile.
I think I am too.
It's about 3 or 4 ounces. I think it's what the recipe called for, and I think that's about what we got space for. So to leave with a little bit of head like you've done, which is great.
Look at the beautiful color.
And then what you could do
Incredible.
is you could, garnish with a little peel, or what, a lot of the mixologists would do would just be to give it a little bit of that twist over the top to just drop the oil on there. I got one of those, I've got this fancy little thing. So you could do like this type of a curvy deal.
Oh, I love that. I'll take that one.
And then, throw that in there, and it's all another $7 for that, right? At the fancy cocktail bar. So let's try it.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Oh, that's so good.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Oh, and that little, there's a really nice, it's almost like an arugula-like pepperiness that comes through in the gin that I just love because
gin is so cool.
Yeah,
but it's not overpowering anything,
not
and I
at
think
all.
that's important to highlight.
It's super bright and fresh, and I think that's a thing that, back in the day when there were 3 brands of gin, a lot of them were really driven by that intense juniper and that sort of sappiness that is.
A lot of people tell me that they're almost like, is it too much of that flavor?
Yeah, exactly. And now I think there are gins that don't have any juniper in them. So James is asking if there are any vodka recipes. We didn't go vodka today. This is an award-winning gin, so we wanted to celebrate it. You got to figure if an American gin wins an award at in London, where it's like sort of the HQ of great gin, is worth just exploring with that. So that's our French 75 made American-like, but honoring our friendship with the French. And it's interesting because you sent me a thing with Ina Garten making the French 75 with cognac.
Yeah,
now
that's wow.
That's a real honoring of the French because it's classically a gin drink, but I'm sure it was tasty.
So something that I saw in some of my explorations for this and research is that there seems to be a trend of using wine in cocktails.
Yes.
And it seems to be quite a bit. I mean, it could just be that the algorithm knows that that's what I was looking for, but I found several interesting things. Like, I don't know if I sent it to you, but there was a dirty martini spritz, and I was like,
yes, right. What a great idea.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I mean, we're going to continue with that theme when we get to the Manhattan. Grab me one of those towels real quick. I'm just going to dry my laptop. That's what you get when you're running a show.
Cocktails
and with all liquid and laptops don't go together. But so far, so good, people. Okay, but now we're going to head into the idea of another gin cocktail.
Oh, so fun. Oh, before we do, I just wanted to say, a lot of the times in the wine world, I think people would be surprised. This was made at a really high level, and of course I find it to be very special, but I actually love the idea of using it in any way that is pleasurable to people that love it. So, and I think that's something in the wine world we can embrace.
Yes. No, it's a great point. I think it's sort of like even the extreme version of that, or a common version of that is, what should we open it for? Tuesday's good.
Yes.
Like sometimes that has to happen. We never know what tomorrow or even the next moment brings. So make now as rich as you can. And this involves exploration, experimentation. So we're always learning, and it's fun. It's absolutely a blast. So now we know when we shake, we're adding water, we're adding air, so that we're really fluffing up the drink. You don't want to do that on some cocktails. So that brings us to the next one. And I have news for Snoop and Katy Perry. Gin and juice, when I looked up the recipe for that, because I love that song, California Girls, and she's like sipping gin and juice underneath the palm trees. I look it up and it's orange and grapefruit juices. And I'm like, well, those aren't in season in the summertime, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. So I'm going a little rogue here. I have no idea if it's gonna work or not. We'll grab that cocktail glass, or it's mixing glass. This is a mixing glass. I should have mentioned that before. This is the other half of the shaker, and I can't remember if this is the Boston shaker or the other type, so sorry, I should remember my terminology, but I don't. And then, of course, this was our strainer, and we also had
the Boston shaker, but I don't want to be wrong
I
either.
think that might be right.
Yeah.
I forget what the other one's called.
Feel free to correct me.
Yeah, send us in a note. We were getting lots of good comments, so somebody answer the question. Is the two-piece the Boston shaker, or is it the bullet-shaped one, which looks really cool, but I'm just not used to using it. And then our jigger, that was it. So all that stuff's probably under $20, depending where you buy it. And you know, if you like beer, you can keep some of these in the freezer and drink a nice chilled pint, because it's just a pint glass. Okay, so but we're gonna make gin and juice. We talking about the idea that we want it to, it's summertime, we want it to be seasonal. I have no idea if this is gonna work because I just juiced a bunch of peaches. And I just love summer peaches, stone fruit. There's a guy at the Calistoga Farmers Market. We call him Stone Fruit Guy, and
he's great.
Right? Isn't
I
he
see him
great?
every Saturday,
He's so good, and the stone
He's
fruit
got
is
really unique fruit too.
so special. He's got the those jade plums, or the like plums that
Speaking
are
of being
green.
Psalms, I just walk over to him and I'm like,
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, that's that girl." And then he's
she's
like,
just smelling the
"Where's your
things
bread?"
to call out things. Yeah,
exactly.
Tasting terms.
So I just juiced this before we went live, because that the thing about almost any of these summer fruits, when you juice them, that is different from citruses, is that they oxidize fast, right? Just like an apple, or apple juice is brown. And so you want to do that early in the game, even things like watermelon, because they'll just start to seem less fresh. So what we're gonna do here though is we're going to, well, I thought I had, oh no, I don't have a recipe there. So we're gonna make this up as we go along. Generally speaking, it's gin. It is orange and grapefruit juices, and then some people add simple syrup, but otherwise it's really just kind of like a screwdriver, or whatever the grapefruit juice one is called, Salty Dog? I can't remember now
right.
what that's called. Why don't I remember that? Anyway, but I'm gonna do it just a little bit differently. This is where we're gonna roll the cocktail, because when you have a juice that foams, most notably things like tomato juice for your Bloody Marys, you don't wanna shake them, because then it makes it worse, and it looks unsightly, right? And we're already seeing like the foam on top of this one. When we pour it, we're gonna get some nice, just puree type juice. But we're gonna do the technique of rolling, so we still get it somewhat chilled. We're gonna use chilled, in this case frozen gin, because since we're not shaking it or stirring it and giving it a lot of time with the ice, we're gonna use cold spirit. So the spirit isn't going to melt as much, but we got a ton of juice here. Whoa, look at that.
Wow. Very cold spirit.
That looks like we could sort of like sell that on eBay, except that it's
like
real
a
ice.
sculpture.
That's hilarious. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, wow, that does look really appetizing though.
No.
Okay, and now you can see I do not have fancy ice cubes, so all the bartenders in the audience here are going into projectile vomiting because I just have normal ice cubes out of the freezer. But there's only so much a girl can get done. Okay, I did make those cool ice cubes, but then I didn't have time to get them out of the freezer. So I'm gonna do 2 ounces. Is this 2 ounces? I don't know. I will look and see. Yes, it's the 2 ounces. And then I'm going to probably do a little bit of citrus juice in here, because I do want to give it some acid, because the peach juice is just straight sweet.
Right.
So I'll put that down there, and I'm just gonna squeeze.
Yeah, I love those parts that you mentioned. That really resonated with me earlier.
Right?
That was
it's
good.
it's
Yeah,
really
just
something.
to know that in the back of your mind.
And that's,
we should post it. We'll post
yes,
the little graphic of it.
because there's it's a logical thing, right? When you're anyone who's cooking, why do we drink coffee or tea? We like that bitterness or that tension. We like that acid. Coffee is a pretty high acid drink, not as high as wine, but close. And then so I'm gonna do the peach juice.
Yum! Look at that.
Yeah,
Oh,
right? Doesn't that
beautiful.
look delicious? And then I already put some citrus juice in there. We don't know if that's gonna be the right amount or not, but rolling is just this.
So instead of the hard shake, you're just gently
That's it.
back and forth.
You don't build up much of a vacuum, but it gives you that nice little mix. And so that's how you're gonna mix your Bloody Marys, is a roll rather than a shake or a stir. Because you want the ingredients to fully combine, especially in a Bloody Mary, but you don't want to foam up that juice and make it look like, I don't know, like bad dishwater,
Frothy.
Yeah, all that. So we'll put this in our wine glasses.
Perfect.
And ooh, boy, this is going to be interesting. Maybe I should pour. I'm going to pour it into my little. No, I think I want to do the ice, but I'll pour it into this so I have a spout. Because the next thing you know, going into my wine glass, I'm going to have a bit of a mess on my hands. Okay, and we'll add a little bit more ice to our glasses. I was always taught, pour the cocktail over fresh ice. And so maybe I will. Your instinct is good. it's really warm out here, so our ice is
Oh,
melty.
Even
Whoa.
a better time for these cocktails. Here we go.
Hold on. You
Give
got
it
it?
like 2 seconds and it'll just melt into there.
Here,
Perfect.
oh, good job. And then there's always the engineer in you that just made it fit. Okay, and then I'll do this one, and maybe we will strain it over fresh ice, because now that I'm remembering, if Dale DeGroff, the master mixologist that taught me and pretty much everybody else who's alive of cocktail mixing age or their mentor, how to make drinks, he would be rolling over in his, well, he's alive and well with us, but he would be very upset with me for not straining over fresh ice. So I'll do that.
Oh, that looks perfect.
And so we're not underneath the palm trees, but we are underneath the cabana.
That
Good,
works.
close
yeah.
enough. And what I meant to do, but I didn't have time, was we have a bunch of basil and a bunch of mint over there, and I was going to throw some nice herbs in there. Especially love to do basil with gin cocktails, because in the summertime it's just got that nice little bit of anise or nice little flavor. And then I've got, we have, because if we're Katy Perry, we have our lipstick on. And I don't like making trash, so I have metal straws.
Nice. Talk about sustainability. Great job.
You know, mainly these are the ones that go into the water bottles, but they're great to use as a straw. So shall we?
Cheers.
Cheers. Gin and juice, minus any garnish. Sorry.
Wow, that's delicious.
Oh, that's delicious.
The peach is great. Mm-hmm. And it's not heavy in any way.
Not
It's
at all.
It's very silky. It adds
Yep.
like quite a beautiful texture to it.
Yep. If I would do anything to it, I would probably put a little more of the lemon.
Yeah.
Just to amp that.
Although
And-
I'm getting it like mid-palate.
Yeah.
Brightness. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people would love a little bit of simple syrup in here. It's really, though, depends on how much sweetness you like. You know, if you're trying to avoid extra sugar, this is plenty sweet. I want to know what it tastes like with a little bit of the sparkling wine in it.
oh, sure.
I mean, why not?
Always. Yeah.
Why not? You know, that takes us almost in the
Top it-
direction of like
Top
the
it with
Bellini.
some M.
And,
oh, absolutely.
right?
A little bit more, I think.
Just a little bit, yeah, because then that's going to bring the acidity, and it's also going to bring some nice.
Seems to mix it in a way too. It's kind of bringing up air.
Yeah,
This one.
absolutely. Ooh, that's actually
like
a win.
it?
That's
Okay.
a win. Gin and juice with M.
Gin and juice Bellini.
Yeah, I think just M and juice. Gin and M and juice. This sounds like an M&M or something.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Actually, that brings out interesting earthier. That's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's a real win to add
Really
that.
taste the stone fruit element
It
of it.
you
Just
do.
Not just the sweetness.
I think it also pumps the gin flavors too. I'm getting
Yeah, maybe
more
that's
of
what
the
I was-
aromatics.
yeah.
You know, more of those botanicals are really popping out there. Okay, so we are just cranking along.
highly recommend this one, everybody. That was delicious.
Yes, and that's the one recipe I haven't posted, but I promise that I will do so. Thank you all for sticking with us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you are on Instagram, you're not seeing any of our graphics, you can jump over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you there.
You can find the link right in the bio. It's quick and easy.
Yes, thank you. But let's go to now. We've talked about shaking. We've talked about rolling, and but I want to turn our attention back to cocktail history. And my favorite cocktail, especially when somebody else is making it, although it's the easiest one in the world to make, but I just love watching people do it, and I love having somebody make a cocktail for me. It's just something very personal,
Yeah.
right?
It's wonderful. It's a kind,
Yeah.
warm gesture.
It's like a little your individualized custom creation right here, right now, and a lot of times, you know, great bartenders will talk to you or listen to you, and they'll also tell you the story of the cocktail or the spirits, and they have a great story, and that's really, you know, that brings in all the humans and the history, and that's all we got, right? We have today, right now, and we have our history, and we have each other. So it's good to really be able to celebrate those things. So are you a Manhattan fan, first of all?
You know, I do love a Manhattan, but I sometimes find them to be bold or heavy. And on my journey through, you know, tasting wine all the time, I continually look for brighter, higher acid offerings. So yes, I do, and love Manhattan. It may not be the thing I reach for the most, though.
Gotcha.
I'm very excited to try this one.
Well, we're going to use, you talked before about the increasing trend of wine and cocktails.
Yes.
And I think one thing that allows us to do for people who are looking for that, and we all are maybe at one time or another, is it allows us to lighten them up. because it's a lower. We were talking about alcohol content before. Wine, your sparkling wine is about what?
It's about 13.5.
13.5%. So typical, typical wine percentage. And then whereas like a typical spirit, I think our gin is 50%? 88. So 44%, yes. 88 proof. If you take the proof, divide by half,
yep, 44%.
44% alcohol by volume. So that's why when you're making a cocktail, you're doing the shaking, the stirring, and the blending with other things, unless you're having a fantastic, cognac or mezcal that is beautifully aged and you're going to have that neat or straight, or a scotch. Lots of scotch lovers out there.
Yes.
Before we leave gin, I forgot to mention that it is a distillate based on grain typically, usually really neutral grains, so that the whole game with gin is that recipe of botanicals and the infusion of those botanicals. So they're, aromatic plants is basically the best way to say it. And they can vary a lot.
I've noted, like even with this being like, wow, I've never heard of that specific botanical, but does that give it a sense of terroir?
That's a great question. You were saying something about the water too, maybe about as a terroir
they
element.
Use Texas rainwater, which is really interesting.
And that's a big
Pure
deal.
Texas rainwater.
Yeah, and that's a big deal because the best place to get our water is from the rain. Can you talk a little bit about just like the importance of kind of thinking about water as a resource?
Yes, and it's huge in our industry. It's huge in our world.
Yes,
truly.
yes.
Water is a very, very precious resource. And as I've learned on my journey in wine production and in sustainability, working with Napa Green, there's a lot of really innovative things we can do. I mean, it's a little scary when we think about this precious resource and it's dwindling, but it's also wonderful to think about all the incredible things vintners are doing. I mean, you think about Todd Mastero at Dominus and his dry farming efforts. I mean, you think about so you can do natural things, or you can do during production, just making really interesting, intelligent choices. And there's great technologies now that really help with water reduction.
Yeah.
Which I think is phenomenal. So
absolutely, and it's something that for a lot of us, most of us maybe who are watching right now, kind of grew up with water coming out of the tap. It's not that way everywhere, and it hasn't been that way for most of human history. And so it's easy when it's abundant, seemingly, to think that it's no big deal. But I was just watching in terms of, to go to the polar opposite of, you were talking about some artisanal producers like Dominus, and all the technologies or places here in Napa Valley, which we're a tiny, tiny, tiny wine region. We make 4% of the state's wine, I think. But there's a commercial I saw. I was watching some program, and there's a commercial from Suntory, which is a very big beverage conglomerate. I think they own Jack Daniels, many, many brands that people love, and it's all about their efforts at water resource conservation, reclamation, and smart water policy. And so just a cool thing. I think that's
neat to see it at scale like that, because you're right, here in the Napa Valley we have a lot of resources and we can experiment, but to see it scale out is really inspiring.
and to recognize the importance. I mean, that's a big thing for that whole story. So we talked about gin. The thing about grain and spirits, I mean, most spirits are based on grain. There are exceptions, things like cognac based on grapes, and schnapps is typically based on whatever fruit the schnapps is supposed to taste like. But is that the whole point of distillation is to preserve the harvest for the long haul. Because if you harvest your grain, or you harvest your pears, or you harvest your grapes, they're going to spoil. So fermenting helps, right? Wine ages, right? So that's good. But if you can distill it, it's not going anywhere, right? So distillation, once it was discovered, was really a way to be able to keep the calories of grain available for consumption.
Interesting.
And then people figured out, wow, if we let it age a little bit, or we add this thing or that thing to it, tastes pretty good.
Great.
So that's a cool thing to know. So that brings me into then whiskey, because whiskey it's ubiquitous throughout the world.
Absolutely.
Do you have any, if you've had a Manhattan, where's the whiskey that or have you had one that you remember liking?
I don't drink enough whiskey, I have to be honest with you. I mean, I am a Scotch girl, which technically
it's a very much a whiskey. It is one of the leading whiskeys, gal.
I have wonderful memories of being in Manhattan, and after working at night at Ruth's Chris, there's a wonderful, very authentic Scottish bar.
Yes.
Just around the corner.
Nice.
Where everybody was from Scotland. You couldn't understand them, and
even though they speak English, right? You're like, what language is that?
I learned all about single malt Scotch and fell in love with it. So that's my personal.
Okay, so you mentioned malt, so that's barley malt. So that's the grain, especially grown most successfully in really cold places. So Scotland being pretty close to the, or high up in the in latitudes, and places like Germany where it's beer mostly, but same thing, barley. So our gins are oftentimes based on sort of lighter, more neutral grains like rice, corn. When we go into the Manhattan, the classic whiskey for that is a rye whiskey. I love my bourbon, my Kentucky bourbon, because as part of my childhood was in southern Indiana, right across from Louisville, Kentucky. And so you're not far from bourbon country and Derby mindset and all that. And that's very, has a great memories for me. But we're going to make this one with rye because that's the classic. However, what we're going to do is we're going to use, instead of bitters, we're going to use an aperitivo amaro. And if you're watching on Instagram, you're not seeing the graphics of what we're doing, but we'll show you.
We'll show it.
And then we're going to, instead of using vermouth, so our amaro is in place of the Angostura bitters, which is the classic ingredient. But I want to go American, and I love Dale DeGroff, and I love this product, so I wanted to use it again. And then the last thing, instead of vermouth, we're going to use this fantastic Kosert Gordon Madeira. And so, because vermouth, it's interesting, it's sort of historically known as an aromatized wine, aromatized because it was made from not the highest quality of wines. Let me move that out of the way. And so in this case though, this is a world-class wine. And I chose it because it has I'll say a similar taste profile to vermouth. This is the Verdelho grape. Madeira is an island off the coast of Portugal, and they're very famous for this style of wine, which is fortified. So it's going to be it's a 19% alcohol, so it's fortified with a little bit of spirit. Like a distillation, that adds to the ageability of the wine. So this is rock solid, like it's got a stopper cap, meaning that it's not going to go bad after you open it for a long, long, long time. But it's a much higher quality base wine and flavor profile than you're going to find in vermouth. Okay. Do you want to taste it?
Just the vermouth straight up? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Or just the Madeira.
The Madeira, yeah. Just to give you a sense, because when they aromatize a vermouth, it's a lot of times with herbs and things like that. And I think, unless it's a really high quality vermouth like Carpano, I think people think it's mainly to cover up the so-so quality of the wine.
Oh, wow. It's actually quite elegant.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Yes, and it's toasty, it's caramely. It has so much more going on, which I love. So, and it's got, did you get that cut of acid?
Mm-hmm. That's
right. So
immediately just gives a little bit of a lift to it.
So the Verdelho grape is one of the drier grapes that they use in the Madeira wine styles, and that's what I'm going for here. If you like a sweeter Manhattan, right? There's dry Manhattans, there's sweet Manhattans, and there's perfect Manhattans, which usually is a function of which vermouth you use, dry or sweet. Just pick the Madeira that you want, because this one is, there's Cercial is the driest. This is the next one. You could go to Boal or Malmsey if you want a sweeter Manhattan. But what we're doing is we're reversing the polarity here, and we're upping the amount of, quote, vermouth, or this is the vermouth replacement, and reducing the amount of whiskey so that's a little bit of a lighter cocktail. So to your point about using wine in
feeling
cocktails.
about this, yes.
Yeah. So this time we're going to stir. And and we're stirring because there's no reason to add air. We don't have simple syrup in here. We don't have citrus juices in here. So we're, or like if you could shake, a daiquiri would be the classic thing that you would shake if it's not frozen. You would shake a pina colada to get air into it. So fill up your mixing glass, and then, okay, we're gonna do our rye. Perfect. And this is an American one made in Brooklyn, Bushwick, jaywalk. So don't jaywalk across the New York City intersection, right, is kind of the joke.
It's really, I used to live in Bushwick. Is it really made there? Oh, I hear Bushwick is very cool now.
Isn't it?
Yes,
it
wasn't when it was a little different. But
yeah, you were like, I can afford this. It's not that cool.
Yay, Bushwick.
Yay, Bushwick. Hold on, that's got a little bit of ice in it. Okay, so we're going to do our 2 ounces of rye. And I should have done it the other way, but that's okay. We'll make a mess. We'll make it as 2. So we'll do 2 ounces of rye, and instead of we're doing the same amount of Madeira. I'm going to amp it though a little bit, and then Madeira instead of vermouth.
I like that term that you keep using for cocktails, like you're going to amp it. That's good. Where did that come from?
I don't know.
I love it.
It's a
works.
habit I have.
I know, I like it.
Yeah. It's and there's little, just it's easy, little bitty ways that you can do it. And then I just need you to smell this before. Like, smell that.
Oh, wow.
Wow, right?
I mean, I would just
and
sip
then
that on
and
my
then
own.
go. I do too. At Christmas time, it is like forget the eggnog minus the egg and the nog. This is this is all the spices, right? So this is, it's comparable, right? But this is more refined. This is.
This has more.
This
kind
is
of even
really
tone. This has a lot of.
So pretty, and it's got a little sweetness to it as well. It's a kind of a liqueur level of sweetness,
Pretty color.
which gives you a nice like just rounding out of the whiskey. And then we grab our spoon, and so. This is a bar spoon. Everybody who's a real bartender watching right now is laughing at me because I couldn't find my newest and greatest and improved bar spoon, which you don't have to bend, right? This newest one has this thing on the top, and the way you hold it, it doesn't have to be bent. But I couldn't find it, so I've got the one that I had to bend. But when you've bent it, then you can stir right over the top. And you're doing it for a good amount of time because we've got some intensity of spirit in there, and we're wanting to water it down and balance it out. And then this one we'll
But
just
not
get
aerate? Is that why you're not shaking?
not going to
Okay.
aerate it. Yeah,
Okay.
because there's nothing, these types of spirits less interesting for aeration unless they have some sort of a juice. Like I still probably might shake in what is it called? When you have sugar and lemon, It's whiskey sour. I would shake the heck out of that.
Okay.
Because I got lemon juice in there, and I really want to add a lot of air because I'm not adding a lot of water in other ways. And here I've got the vermouth substitute and my bitters. So then what we can do is, I always drink these up like this, but
Beautiful.
if you want to put it in a rocks glass, then with ice on it, or with ice in it, then you can water it down even more, which makes it maybe great for hot weather, maybe great for Independence Day type of thing. This is one we get a nice, what we call a diurnal shift here, so we get to have things really cool down very, very nicely in
Starting
the
to
evening.
even already feel it a little.
Feels
just a little bit, the breeze.
so good.
Yeah.
So that makes this cocktail very attractive. But if you want to grab that little cup there, the little Yeti.
Sure.
This is what, if I'm like poolside, I want to use something like this with ice in it and the insulated sides. That would be, instead of a rocks glass, that would be a great way to do it. Oh, and the one thing we forgot though, you can grab the cherries there.
Absolutely.
This is sort of the classic garnish, but not the, I guess we're about to lose the food dyes that would be in the maraschino cherries we all grew up with in our Dairy Queen sundaes. But this is the classic Luxardo maraschino cherry that of course doesn't have that Dayglow red to it. But I absolutely love these, and I'm convinced that they must have, because they're kind of like toothsome, I'm convinced they must have some fiber, and therefore they're good for me. And so I always make sure to enjoy my cherry.
Beautiful.
But there's our very festive 1776 Manhattan using Madeira. Now, not American, but very American in tradition. Do you know about this?
No, tell me more.
So in the 1700s and 1800s, Madeira was very, very widely consumed and favored in the colonies. So it was something that was traded to the colonies, and in fact it was the wine that the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and I believe the ratification of the Constitution many years
that's
later,
amazing.
was consumed.
What a perfect choice for
Yeah.
just before 4th of July. That's incredible.
So we gave a lot of props to the French, but also the Portuguese are a big part of our colonial history, which is super cool. So what do you think?
I love it. It is a touch. It's just like a beautiful balance.
Yeah. It's I like to use bourbon on them as well, but rye is sort of the classic, and I love the idea of using this New York rye. They're such nice people, and the product is extraordinary. It's delicious.
I can really see the difference between the techniques here as well. With the stirring versus it's very cold, but
Yeah.
it just feels different.
Yeah.
Less aerated, less
Less-
watery, less whatever it is.
It's
just really fascinating.
it's more creamy. It's more
It's still very cohesive.
yeah. For me, the stirring is you get with a high quality spirit. That's super important. You get almost like a satiny texture, almost like it's sort of like the
Yes,
Pinot
that's it.
Noir of cocktails in a
Yes.
way, because
Beautiful.
it's satiny rather than grippy. And I think that the stirring and the smoothness of the ingredients makes a big difference there.
I feel like we did a great job too, respecting our kind of solemn backgrounds with the going from lighter to
Lighter to
Silkier,
heavier.
heavier,
Yes, yes. And so we should talk for a second about food and pairings, because I think more and more people are doing at cocktail bars, especially. They're thinking about that. One of my favorite things to have just with a Manhattan like this is Marcona almonds.
Oh, okay.
But I'm curious, like, what are some of the things that you've seen that you really like in sort of the cocktail pairing scene?
You know, it's funny having that steakhouse background. Basically, anything you could imagine at a
Yeah.
steakhouse. But it seems to work really well because those are bold flavors.
Yeah.
Typically, the char on a steak and things of those
Right.
nature seem to work well. Even the marbling of like a great
Yeah.
New York strip, I
Yeah.
could see actually working with this somewhat. So
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, for anybody who's watching, James is talking about he's stuck on Scotch. Very
Yay,
fair.
Scotch.
Yay, Scotch. But we used to, at Windows on the World, host cocktail dinners. And this was a Dale DeGroff invention, and he, by the way, is the person the behind the Amaro.
I
Here
saw
we go.
that. I'm gonna need to purchase a bottle
DeGroff
of that.
Amaro.
It's
Yeah,
so beautiful,
it's
you
made
guys.
it's made up in Oregon with, which the Oregon focus on local producers and products and artisanal stuff. That's just a signature. And so when he wanted to go and make his own, like, essentially set of Amari, he wanted to make it domestic, and I just love that. And he went to Oregon because they really just they got it going on. They have that stuff,
Oh, they do.
which is so good.
So I have a question for you
Yeah.
as a master somm. I feel like there might be and I don't know if it's outdated, but a lot of the times I sort of came up studying wine, learning that, of course, we love wine, but that cocktails may influence your palate differently or weigh your palate in certain ways. Do you agree or disagree, or what are your thoughts?
You
or
know,
does it depend on how the cocktail is made?
I think it depends on how the cocktail's made and the balance of it. You go, some of them are so light and so refreshing and sprightly, and others are more kind of like this one, which to me is more cerebral, contemplative. It's something that deserves kind of
Yes.
spending time with.
I don't feel it impacting my palate. And
It's-
honestly, I could imagine a huge red tannic wine having more of an impact.
That's true. It's super clean, so it's sort of like, I don't know, it's almost like Rioja Gran Reserva on the nose and Pinot Noir on the palate or
Yeah.
something. I don't know, if we're talking about wines, which makes me think, okay, maybe it would be great with chuletas, lamb chops from, Spanish lamb chops, or ooh, croquetas, those codfish croquettes.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Oh boy, you can tell we're getting hungry here as we're sitting here, because we have some snacks
we
over
have
there,
snacks.
but we also wanted to make sure that the bugs didn't come around. So wanted to thank you, Megan. First of all, the wine's delicious, and
Thank you.
I think I'm glad that you are down for using it with cocktails.
Absolutely.
I feel like it totally amped the gin and juice.
It
and,
really did.
So fresh juice and a little sparkling wine will take that cocktail to a whole different level. Want to really thank the Devil's Grin Gin folks for, first of all, just for making a great gin, and secondly for supporting. They sent us this gin like on the fly, because I literally met the guy last week and I said, oh, I was gonna do a different American gin that I've used before, but this is so good. Like, what do you
Truly is
think?
very special.
Yeah, and for me, I have that Texas connection, so so I was very excited about that. So thank you all for that. Thanks to all of you for joining, and those of you who are on Instagram, appreciate you sticking with us, and jump over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel if you would be so kind. That would be great. Tell your friends, and we're super excited to welcome summer,
Yes.
to toast to our French friends who supported us through thick and thin, and to really celebrate all that is great about our independence and July 4th, and our friends and neighbors and everybody that we get so much out of and owe so much to. Go into the past, and let's bring all the best of ourselves into the future. Let me tell you really quick about the next episode. It is going to be back to wine school, because this will be August 13th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. I've been exposed over the summer to so many interesting, and well, it's not even the summer yet, but over the last year, so many interesting approaches to oak, including none at all, for really wines that are typically associated with oak. So we're going to go do a Back to Wine School episode.
It is a strategy that's changing rapidly.
Big time. Part of it is the resource, but also just getting styles that are not so oaky. So I put in there, you think you know oak, and there's new techniques. There's even new oak terroir. So I'm going to share that with you.
That's cool.
So if you go to YouTube and hit subscribe, you'll get a reminder of when that episode comes up. You can also, in my bios on Instagram, sign up for the newsletter. That will also tell you either which way. Those are ways that you can jump into the idea of being in a taste along audience in the future.
Oh,
so you can,
that's fun.
You're right. So you can meet our guests and be able to enjoy this and be a part of the spirit of it, because it really is fun to have an in-person audience. Although tonight it was the dog, the neighbor dog, and the birds and the squirrels, and I thought it would be the chickens. They have chickens, which means they have eggs. So I always try to stay on their good side. But anyway, that's the next episode. Please come back and watch the recording if you missed part of it. The beginning of the show had a little bit of a glitchy thing with the graphics. I had to move some things around, and I apologize for that. But at least we had some. So really, really appreciate Megan.
Thank you for having me. And please check out a bottle of M Sparkling and make a cocktail with it. They're delicious.
Yes,
really elevated
yes,
it, yeah.
and you can go and find, what's your website called?
www.mvinorose.com.
Mvino Rose.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's like that's
fancy.
Yes.
Yeah, or follow me on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram.
She is everyone's dream of an Instagram poster, because she's really good at this stuff. So just thank everybody for joining us, and
thank you. This is wonderful.
Right.
Thank you for doing these great
fun
educational
times,
shows.
and we will see you at the next one. And we're going to